It has been a while since I've done one of these videos. So today, obviously you can see by the layout behind me that we're doing something a little different. We're going to do tier maker. So the playoffs are really close. So I thought I would rank the Raptors along with the rest of the Eastern Conference leading up into it, where we kind of anticipated. The last time I would have done one of these videos was like the off season, and for the most part, outside of a few misses, I actually think most of those hold up pretty well. So hopefully I'm on the ball with this one as well. But just before we fully hop into things, usual drill, just make sure you leave me a like on the video, and if you're new here, subscribe as well. Both those two things go such a long way, so thank you if you're doing it. Plus, if you plan on doing any responsible sports betting in the near future, just make sure to check out the sponsor of this video in the description below for a really nice sign-up bonus. Let's get some of the easy ones out of the way first. Actually, you know what? First things first, let me show you the categories. I feel like they are pretty self-explanatory, but just in case. Eastern Conference champion favorites, obviously teams that we kind of expect to see come out of the East, right? Maybe, just maybe, teams that I wouldn't quite expect them to come out of the East, but you know what? There's a chance. Then we have playoff team, probably nothing more. Pretty self-explanatory on that one. We have the play-in, which I haven't decided yet whether or not are going to be teams left behind or just an encompassing of all of it. Probably going to be a combination of the two. Like if there's somebody in the play-in that I'm very confident is going to, make it through, I'll probably just put them in playoff team. But yeah, besides the point. And then my favorite category, just by name, because I think it's hilarious. Victor, where you at? Again, pretty self-explanatory. Teams that at this point have no expectations for the rest of the season. Now, let's get some of the easy ones out of the way. Speaking of Victor, where you at? Let's put the Hornets. Victor, where you at? I would say let's put the Magic. Victor, where you at? And for now, let's just hold it at that. Yeah, those two teams have obviously done nothing this season. They will do nothing this season. They are looking forward to the NBA draft. And at least in the case of Orlando, they actually have a fun young core there that could really come together, and adding somebody like Victor or Scoot or whoever would be a dream for them, I imagine. For the Hornets, they need everything. So anything they can get, I'm sure they would be happy with in the draft. Now, if we're looking at the Brooklyn Nets, obviously the Nets have had the most interesting season, I would say, of most teams. Yeah, like they were a very good team with KD and Kyrie at the helm. Then Kyrie requested a trade, then KD got traded as well. Now they have been tumbling down the standings from previously near the top of the Eastern Conference to now, as of the time of this video being recorded, sitting in 7th and being in the play-in. And I think play-in is pretty much where we're going to leave them. I think Brooklyn has a lot to look forward to with their team. It's just definitely not gonna come this season or the next past that. So the Pacers had a point early on this season where they looked honestly a lot better than advertised. Some of the young talent really came together. Tyrese Halliburton had a really good season. The issue here has been injuries on top of youth and a combination of just a bunch of things. I'm tempted to say they could make a push for the play-in, but ultimately I think I'm just going to put them in Victor, where you at? Honestly, same thing for the Wizards. I think there's been times where they've looked pretty damn good. Pretty damn good by the standards of a playoff team or a potential playoff play-in team. But there's also been times where they've looked really bad. And ultimately, I think at the end of the day, they will end up in Victor, where you at? Now, the Sixers. I know Raptors fans hate Sixers fans, deservedly so, for the fan side of it. And as an extension, they hate the Sixers team. So I was not a popular person when I said the Sixers were going to be a damn good team this year. We're late into the season and the Sixers are a damn good team this year. I mean, look, this isn't me trying to rub salt in the wound, but I think it was plain and obvious the Sixers were going to be one of the best teams in the conference, and they are one of the best teams in the conference at this point. Joel Embiid has a very good crack at finally capturing his first MVP. A lot of the other guys there, like Harden, have played well. Tyrese Maxey has played well. Their role players, have looked pretty good. I'm tempted. See, right now my decision making is between obviously Eastern Conference champion favorites and maybe just maybe. I think they're a notch better than maybe just maybe. Like, I do think for the most part this is a 3-team race at the top, let's put it that way, and I think it's obvious which 3 teams they are, and I think I'm comfortable putting the Sixers as one of those 3 teams. Can't believe I missed the Pistons earlier. This is an easy one. Victor, where are you at? I'm not even going to get into it too much. Injuries, youth, etc., etc. They are not a good team. The Atlanta Hawks, play in, like, there's at least some temptation to put them in playoff team, but probably nothing more. But ultimately, play in. Let's just leave them there. Like, they've had so many issues this year. They fired a coach this year. Like, they're not a good team. Celtics, again, another easy one, much like the Sixers, except much less explanation needed. The Celtics go to Eastern Conference champion favorites. I understand they haven't looked as good in the second half of the season, but this is a team that was just in the finals. This is a team that's very deep, that is very talented, and that should be looked at easily as one of the favorites. Chicago Bulls have had just as turbulent of a season, I would say, as the Hawks, and another team that I'm going to talk about. They are a play-in team. Let's leave them there. The Cavs are pretty much the reason, I'm going to be honest, that the maybe just maybe category exists. I don't think they're good enough to be in the top group, but I also don't think they're bad enough to be in playoff team, probably nothing more. So I'm going to throw them into maybe just maybe. Very outside shot. I think that they make it out of the East. I think they're maybe still a year or two away and maybe a few pieces here and there, but I don't feel they're bad enough to put them in the category underneath them, which is again pretty much why I created that category in between. I think they have a slim shot. I wouldn't bank on it, but I think they have a slim shot to come out of the East this year. Miami has had also a bit of a turbulent season. This is a tough one. You know what? I think they're going to be the second addition to maybe just maybe, because I don't think they're bad enough to outright dismiss them, and we all know that Jimmy Butler really turns it on in the second half in the playoffs. So the team that you're going to face now is probably going to be a lot better than the team that you had at the beginning of the year. That being said, obviously they're not good enough to be favorites by any means, but I don't think they're bad enough to be, the probably nothing more category. Again, probably even slimmer shot than the Cavs in this case, but it wouldn't be the most ridiculous thing, I believe, to see Miami come out. Bucks are probably the easiest team to rank here. Eastern Conference champion favorites. And definitively, I think they are the favorites. I mean, obviously, like, Boston and Philly have both been really good as well. And I think it's very interesting how some of those top teams match up with each other. Like, I think certain teams there have favorable matchups against one another, and depending what the Eastern Conference Finals ends up being, depending on how seeding ends up looking, you could realistically see any one of these 3 teams come out of the East. But if I was a betting man, I'd probably pick the Bucks in that situation. So, probably the biggest apology that I owe from the original rankings goes to the New York Knicks. And shout out to you, New York, for proving me wrong. Look, the Knicks, I didn't expect much out of this season, but they've looked good. The pieces are fitting. Some of the role players have really come on. Randall's having a good year. Jalen Brunson has been a really solid player for them. Probably a little bit better than people would have thought. And the addition of Josh Hart at the deadline. They're a good team. They're a very good team, but they are a playoff team. Probably nothing more. I could see them giving somebody a really competitive series, but ultimately, I don't think they're really going to do anything. So now we have the Raptors left. And honestly, looking at this, so let's see. We have 3 teams that are for sure in the realistically, we have 6 teams that are for sure in the playoffs, which obviously leaves 2 spots available to the play-in. I'm just trying to take a look at the play-in and see if there's anybody that I'm so comfortable with thinking is a playoff team. But honestly, there really isn't. Like, there really isn't. Like, I look at the Bulls, I look at the Hawks, I look at the Nets, and I think I could kind of imagine who I think is going to come out of those two. Or sorry, out of those teams for the final two spots. And ultimately, wow, I can't believe the Knicks have their own category. Sorry. Ultimately, I think the Raptors go right in with that group of the play-in. Look, I personally think they are good enough to walk out of that play-in tournament and be a playoff team, and definitively nothing more. They're a first-round exit this year. This team's not good enough to compete for anything significant this year. I'm sorry. Regardless, yeah, I feel comfortable thinking they're going to be one of these teams that is going to fill the last two playoff spots. I just don't think I would bet everything on that, because they have been so tremendously inconsistent this year that, man, as much as I could definitely look at it and based on the current scenarios, think, yeah, the Raptors can win 2 games against those teams and take one of those spots. At the same time, man, we've seen some shit this year. We have absolutely seen some shit. So I wouldn't bet the farm on it. Yeah, wow, the Knicks really ended up with their own category here. Yeah, I think that's more or less where I'd leave it. I mean, look, if you really wanted me to go, push come to shove, or whatever the expression is, and pick the last 2 playoff teams, I think it would be the Hawks, and I think it would be the Raptors. But, I mean, ultimately, I think they're a lot closer to these teams. Both of these teams are a lot closer to the Bulls and the Nets than they are to the Knicks, which feels weird, because I don't think a lot of the Knicks, but I do think they're the better team definitively than this entire category. So, take that for what it is. Yeah, that's been me. That has been the video for today. What do you folks think? How do you feel about these rankings? Is this more or less how you expect it, kind of leading up to the end of the season, to the playoffs, the play-in, etc., etc.? Or are there things that you would change? Comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Other than that, folks, usual drill. If you're still if you are still watching this video, I beat myself to the punch. Like it. It doesn't take a long time, and it makes a massive difference for the channel, so thank you. Plus, if you're new here and you enjoyed what you watched today, subscribe to the channel as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much been me. It's been JJ Buckets. It's been a real one, and I will see everybody next time.